Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another year of the Farm Bureau Insurance Classic. Thanks for joining us here on SUV TV as we get things tipped off with a matchup between Peachtree Ridge and Northwood Temple. So one Peach State representative there with Peachtree Ridge coming out of Georgia, and the North Carolina Tar Heel / Hoop State, as it's affectionately known, represented by Northwood Temple. Thanks for joining us here at the 2017 FBI Classic, an event that's atmosphere, venue, and intriguing lineup is always second to none. So we're about seconds away from tipping it off here in the holiday hoops season. So it's going to be Peachtree Ridge with the first possession. Devin Vassell, one player to watch here for Peachtree Ridge, but a squad that has multiple players to keep an eye on, led by Coach Keith Arrington. Keeps a good squad and always maximizes the potential of each squad. Back playing in the home of his Palmetto State roots. Shots off the mark. Here comes Nickelberry the other way, goes behind the back, momentarily loses it, but kicks it to the trailing number 23, Brandon B. Franklin, who misses on the triple. Both teams taking the first couple up and downs to get loose. Vassell along the baseline. He's doubled. Pass goes between the hands of the big man. Here comes Northwood Temple the other way. In and out dribble and a lay is good to go. Score that one for number 11. That's John Michael Wright. On the right path there. 2-0 ball game early on for Northwood Temple. Vassell catch and shoot. Splash. Evan Vassell knocked down that last one. Vassell, the Florida State commit. Long and wiry player. Got a chance to catch up with him at Gwinnett County Media Day there in the Atlanta area right before starting this past season, and really talked about the fact that it was great to be able to realize his dream of playing for a big program, being able to commit when he first started his high school career. Had that aspiration, but to really be able to seize it and bring it to fruition, it's been something that's been great for him. Not resting on his laurels, but you got to be able to appreciate the milestone that comes from being a kid that's not widely heralded to signing on to play your college ball at Florida State. A place that has been pretty good for Georgia high school players when they go there. You look at Malik Beasley, the former St. Francis player there in the Atlanta area. Went to Florida State and became a one-and-done, now playing for the Denver Nuggets. Also, McDonald's All-American M.J. Walker, former Jonesboro High School attendee there in Greater Atlanta. He's at Florida State now as well. So a 3-2 ball game after that trip to the free throw line for Northwood Temple's number 21, Ian Steer. Turnover there as that pass had a little bit too much on it. Talented Ian Steer, and North Carolina State commit. Sure, we got a couple Wolfpack fans tuning into this one. 3-2 ball game early on. Ball knocked away, able to stick with it and get the baby jumper to go. That's Hiram Maxey. So it's 4-3. In favor of Peachtree Ridge. Believe they ruled that initial shot by Devin Vassell as a 2 as opposed to a 3-pointer. Josh Nickelberry at the line with a chance to tie things up, or actually to have them take the lead. He's already achieved the other goal. Nickelberry offers from Baylor, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina State, Providence, and more. Also was a part of that talented Game Elite 2019 squad that played on the Adidas circuit. Featured Christian Brown, Ashton Higgins, Nickelberry, Quinn Ritchie, the shooter out of Atlanta. One of the youngest teams there in that circuit, but also one of the most potent. See what Nickelberry has in store for this particular matchup. 5-4 ball game in favor of Northwood. Nickelberry looks the defense away, gets it inside, and we're going to have a trip to the free throw line. A great job there by Nickelberry. As you saw, he and Ian Steer kind of working the pick and roll. You see Nickelberry kind of hesitates just enough to really sell it like he's going to steer. Looks the defense off and gets the find inside. Trip to the free throw line coming here for number 32 for Northwood. That's Trayvon Jackson, the sophomore.
On the line for Northwood Temple, number 32, Trayvon Jackson.
Jackson's first free throw in and out.
Coming in for Peachtree Ridge, number 25, Richard Rivers.
You look at teams having to play this early during a high school season. While there are no excuses, it still requires a little bit of an adjustment. You know, early morning workouts are one thing, but having to come out and actually play this early during the high school season, a little bit more expected during the travel ball season. But so far, I think both teams, relatively speaking, have done a pretty good job of getting loose out of the gate. 6-4 ball game. Boom time for Devin Vassell on the inside. So Vassell makes it 6-6. Nickelberry with it. Being guarded by Devin Higgs. Step back jumper. No good. Rebound brought down by Maxey. Pass ahead. Foul going to go against Northwood Temple.
That's on number 23, Brandon B. Franklin.
That foul charge to Brandon B. Franklin for Northwood. Vassell wants to go inside, didn't like the angle on the entry pass, so now kicks it to the corner. Three-pointer on the way, no good. Northwood running the other way. Had to struggle to keep it in bounds. Nickelberry couldn't hold on to it. The pass that kind of led to that pass was a tough one for number 32 to catch and stay in bounds. So they will turn it over 6-6 as we approach the 4-minute mark here in the first quarter. Watching the Farm Bureau Insurance Classic. One of the best kept secrets when you look at holiday basketball tournaments. Pass ahead, it's a foot race. Nice usage of the Euro step. A layup drill in for number 11 for Northwood Temple. That's John Michael Wright. A lot of times you see the Euro get criticized as far as how players use it. As Hiram Maxey answers back with a bucket of his own. Puts Peachtree Ridge up by 1, but a lot of times the Euro can get a bad rap because you do see players doing the predetermined Euro that they're focused on doing at all costs, even if the situation doesn't call for it. Here on that last one, John Michael Wright with Tommy Mansky drill-like usage of it. Three-pointer, back-to-back triples for Peachtree Ridge in general. For Hiram Maxey, specifically here at the FBI Classic. Thanks for joining us here on SUV TV. It's a 12-8 ball game. Hiram Maxey is a big reason why. We'll be back in Spartanburg after this quick break.
Introducing Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Sports Motion Analysis, powered by Dartfish, giving parents and young athletes frame-by-frame feedback on how to minimize injury and maximize performance. Upload your videos, visit our clinic, or let our specialists come to you. No matter the sport you play, Children's helps young athletes take their game to the next level.
And welcome back. We are out of the timeout. Out of the timeout and into the scorebook. yet again, John Michael Wright. I believe the score should be 12-10. There after that John Michael Wright bucket, they haven't added that deuce yet, but the teardrop floater is good for BJ Knight. So there go those 2 points on the scoreboard. So 10-14 now. Baby jumper on one end, a nice floater. Everybody right on the other. Nickelberry protects the ball like a running back and gets the nice little curl at the rim. As a result, Nickelberry makes it 12-14. Had a drill in high school we would always do during the beginning of practice, and it was just a simple two-step, protecting the ball, cradling the ball in between your two arms, and just finishing a layup. Very simple, but can lead to a bucket just like that of Nickelberry's on the last play. Deep three-pointer, bucket. It's Brandon B. Franklin. The long and lanky Franklin. He's listed at 6'3", but got to be honest, looks a little taller. Score that one for Richard Rivers. The Peachtree Ridge big fella showing the range. Making it 15-17 in the process. But back to B. Franklin for Northwood Temple. There's rarely an instance where you see a guy's height understated in a program or a roster book. That's an anomaly of sorts. Usually you see the guy that's 5'10" and is clinging on to a 6'1" or a 6'2" in the program. Rarely do you see a guy's height understated. Here's Ian Steer at the free throw line. So that one kick off the back of the rim. Back in for Peachtree Ridge. It will be number 3, Devin Higgs, and number 12, Tamir Harrison Chester. Peachtree Ridge comes into the contest 10-1, while Northwood Temple comes in at 5-10. And do not let that 5-10 fool you, and that's per the Max Prep site. They have played some tough teams. Devin Vassell coming and taking the contact from Ian Steer. He's going to head to the free throw line. But when you take a look at some of the teams that Northwood Temple has played, you know, they played Oak Hill Academy right out of the gate to start the season. You know, they played Oak Hill, Huntington Prep, Providence Day, Word of God. They've also beaten teams like United Faith Christian Academy and York Prep. It's one of those things to where sometimes your overall record can be deceiving when you look at the type of bump that you're able to play against. Vassell splashes the second triple, or the second free throw. Although we have had our fair share of triples knocked down on both sides here early on, 15-18. You know, I liken it to a team. We're also broadcasting the Tournament of Champions Classic in Atlanta this week. Westside Macon, led by five-star Kevon Moore. They played the likes of Montverde Academy, one of the top teams in the country. They also played McEachern, who's one of not only Georgia's best, but one of the country's best. And they've certainly taken some lumps early on when you look at the type of teams that they've played. But they're a 3A school playing everything from 4A through 7A, running the gamut. So even though the record is a little lopsided, those are losses that you're able to get better as a result of the quality of the competition that you play. I think Northwood Temple in a similar boat, although they probably have some adjustments to make. They've had an ironclad schedule so far. In the passing lanes is Devin Vassell. He's going to be tripped up as he and Nickelberry got tied up. So inadvertent contact there, but no call by the officials. 3-point contest. Ball poked away by Rivers. Steer gets it. Steer looking to go to work, wheeling, dealing inside. Big fella initiates the contact and will take a trip to the line. Foul going to go against Vassell. That'll be his first foul. So Ian Steer knocks down that free throw, and now he'll get a breather. Mentioned Keith Arrington at the helm on the Peachtree Ridge side. On the Northwood Temple side, you've got head coach Corey Baker, assisted by Clint Robinson. Approaching the 30-second mark here in the first quarter. It's a 1-point lead for Peachtree Ridge. Vassell being guarded by Nickelberry there on the wing. The back tap goes out of bounds by Northwood Temple's John Michael Wright. So it'll be inbounded there. Devin Vassell, the trigger man. Contested mid-range J. That one just off to the right. Seemed to lose the handle a little bit there. Was Darius Moss, a player that's certainly capable of knocking down that shot. About 6 seconds to work with. Nickelberry more than capable of getting the bucket on demand. The Peachtree Ridge defense has other plans. Can they get a shot off? I guess that question is answered, as that will do it for the first quarter. Thanks for joining us for the FBI Classic here on SUV TV, and we'll be back after this first quarter break.
I just love being a leader.
Because I like to punish people. I think the big thing is just taking the right shot.
Just to embarrass people.
I'm a beast. Do my thing whenever I'm putting on someone's neck.
My dogs will be the best in 4 years.
Back out of the timeout, second quarter underway here in game one on day one of the Farm Bureau Insurance Classic here in the Spartanburg, South Carolina area. If you're being a stickler, the Dorman Arena is located in Roebuck, South Carolina. But either way, you get the picture, and that one's a pretty one as Devin Vassell splashes the jumper along the baseline. I think this tournament will be a great eye-opener for certain fans of the game and other teams that might not know about Devin Vassell. Florida State commit, but you got to pay attention to Atlanta area basketball a little bit, or Florida State recruiting specifically, in order to know as much about Vassell as you might like to. Not necessarily a household name, but a player that is worth a little bit more ink and publicity than he might get. Of course, he's not focused on those things. We can just talk about that when it comes to game coverage, but you like to see players that just focus on making it happen on the court and take advantage of some of the byproducts that come along with that. Devin Vassell looking to take advantage of this FBI Classic stage. Peachtree Ridge, not the only Georgia team participating in this year's event. Newton High School also participating, as well as Norcross. Two teams that are in the thick of it and potential state title contenders in Georgia's highest classification, 7-8. The score 22-17. So far, Peachtree Ridge has done a pretty good job of containing Nickelberry. There's still plenty of game time left. Now here's Steer. Steer looking to go to work. Big fella, bull in a china shop of sorts there, as he got the ball right around the three-point line and was focused to go to the rack. Nice job of moving the feet. Getting in a position to take that charge. So Steer is going to have a seat. We'll see just how long he'll have to take a breather for here in the second quarter. It's a 5-point ball game. Oh, Cookie's taken, poked away. Unable to keep it in bounds, but nice defense there by Northwood's Jay Hickman. The sophomore picked that one cleanly, but could not keep it in play. Moss with it up top, being guarded by B. Franklin. Traveling violation. Going against Peachtree Ridge's Tamir Harrison Chester. Shout out to Peachtree Ridge Athletic Director Ryan Lesniak. Guy that knows a thing or two about the game of basketball. Coached one of the best teams to play in the state of Georgia there at Archer High School prior to taking the athletic director and administration position there at Peachtree Ridge. A hoop head that just happened to have, just happens to have other facets that he's proficient in as well. Joined us for our game day live coverage and broadcast of the Atlanta Hawks Naismith Holiday Classic last week there in Atlanta. And I'm sure he's tuning in, giving us great coverage of the Peachtree Ridge athletic programs. 17-22. Check it. Now 20-22. After that triple, there courtesy of Jay Hickman. So Hickman making his presence felt there. Came up with a steal there on the last defensive possession. There gets the triple. 2-point game, working along the baseline, but it's cut off. Too strong, ball being tipped around, and it's Hickman is going to corral the loose ball and be fouled on the play. So there you look at a sequence to where Hickman, great on-ball defense to start it off, comes down, knocks a three down. Then you got a 50-50 ball that he and another player are going for. He gets to it in time, secures it, gets fouled on the play, and now we're going to have a 1-and-1 scenario. So just the little things that can add up over the course of a game. So you're going to look at that roughly 30 to 45 second stretch to where Hickman made about 3 positive plays that either directly or indirectly attributed to points. There he knocks down the free throw, 21-22. And Hickman just a sophomore. 10th grader ties us up at 22 apiece. A little bit of token pressure want to be provided by Northwood Temple. A good job early on of moving the ball without taking a bunch of dribbles by Peachtree Ridge, but pass goes off the hands of the big fella. Nickelberry passes it inside. The reverse, no good. That one was partially deflected. Unable to catch that in stride and lay it up was Trayvon Jackson. Peachtree Ridge recovered. Lefty three, splash. That is Devon Wiggins. Sorry, Devon Higgs. My apologies. While Wiggins is a good basketball name to have, that is not Devin's. That's Devin Higgs with the triple. I'm a righty, but I can admit that the lefty jump shot always looks a little bit better. Coast to coast. Ball no good, but reinforcements in Devin Vassell. 27-22, as that's the largest lead of the game for either side. And that is going to prompt a timeout there by Northwood Temple. We'll take a timeout with them. It's 22-27 here in the second quarter. We'll be back with more FBI Classic action. Devin Higgs sends you to the break with a splash from the corner. Back here at the 2017 Farm Bureau Insurance Classic. Just over 4 minutes remaining here in the second quarter. Peachtree Ridge with a 5-point advantage. Northwood Temple gets a timeout. We'll see what they do out of it. Good look at three. It's no good. Ball tipped around and last touch by Northwood Temple. They get it in to the block. Big fella working the hook. Can't get that one to go. Kicks it off the back rim. Back-to-back looks. Good looks at three out of the timeout for Hickman. Unable to knock it down, but if they can keep getting those types of looks, I'm sure Coach Baker will have no qualms with that. The offensive interference there on the shot. So it'll go back over to the Eagles of Northwood Temple. Strong move inside. Off on the shot. That was number 35, Kobe Fisher, in attack mode there. Good job of creating some space by throwing his body around there, off the mark on the shot. So still a 5-point lead for Peachtree Ridge coming up on the 3-minute mark. That'll be a 2 if it goes. Oh, good rebound brought down by number 50, Akot Aguirre. Kicking it into another gear there was Michael Wright. Couldn't get the bunny. Moss, floater, back rim. Nickelberry avoiding the charge, cannot get the roll. Pass ahead to Vassell. Vassell, nobody's yelling wolf. And he's got him covered either way. So that's going to prompt the timeout on the floor as Devin Vassell gets a deuce to make it a 9-point game. As he had a defender, either that was awareness to where he already knew or expected a defender to be behind him, or it all just worked out because you had John Michael right there in his pocket. And Vassell able to avoid him and finish in time. Talked about Peachtree Ridge being 10-1. They're a team that even with their 10-1 record and being included in the rankings by a couple media outlets there in the Atlanta area, there are still some sleep on Peachtree Ridge just because they don't play in a ton of national tournaments. They're playing some good regional tournaments locally there in Atlanta. But in terms of the national stage, they don't play in as many national tournaments as a lot of teams in the Atlanta area. But make no mistake, they are never an easy opponent. As Coach Arrington is always able to get the most out of his programs. And that's even before he had a player like a Florida State commit in Devin Vassell. Multiple Connor Hayward-led teams have actually played in this FBI Classic before as well. They just get things done by committee. So a foul on the play, 7-point game. I think that's why this is such an intriguing matchup, because mentioned the lack of national tournaments that Peachtree Ridge plays in, but Northwood Temple, a team that has played multiple national opponents in Oak Hill, Huntington Prep, Providence Day, Word of God. So a great litmus test for Northwood Temple to now play a good team out of the Atlanta area, and then for Peachtree Ridge, they get to play a team that has played up against some of the national big dogs when it comes to the tournament schedule up to this point. Second free throw, short. Somebody close that door. Peachtree Ridge turns it over. Nickelberry able to step into a three. Can't get that one to fall. Michael Wright hangs in the air, takes the contact, hits the deck, but appears to be okay. So John Michael Wright Jr. headed to the free throw line.
18 foul. On the line for the 11, John Michael Wright for Northwood Temple.
To 29. Now Northwood Temple pulls to within 4. Peachtree Ridge with the turnover. Now it was back and forth for most of the first half. Peachtree Ridge got out to a 7-point lead. They've been stuck at 29 the past few possessions. And relatively speaking, they've played better than Northwood Temple here in the second quarter, but depending on how the Eagles finish up this quarter, I think you definitely take what could have been an intermission where Peachtree Ridge has a semblance of momentum, and you make it to where Northwood Temple can go in at halftime and say, hey, we didn't play as well as we would have liked to in the second quarter, but we're still right there. Nickelberry grabs the board, kicks it to the corner. Nearly stolen by Vassell, almost only counting in horseshoes and hand grenades, but that jumper from the mid-range won't fall there for Mitchell. There's Moss on the other end. Foul going to go against number 50, Acott. Trip to the free throw line coming here for number 0, Darius Moss. Senior guard for Peachtree Ridge. So a 6-point game after that trip to the charity stripe. Good heads on the screen there by number 23 for Peachtree Ridge. It's B.J. Knight. So we are under the 30-second mark here in the second quarter and the first half as a whole. Appears that Northwood Temple content to hold for one shot here. Peachtree Ridge was doing a good job of staying close. Just not let them sort of mosey into that last attack. But got a little overzealous there as they'll foul Nickelberry, send him to the free throw line. We'll check the official stats, but if you're Peachtree Ridge, you've done a pretty good job when it comes to making sure that Josh Nickelberry didn't get totally out of hand early. He's a player capable of doing so. Combination of good Peachtree Ridge defense as well as some of his shots just not getting the roll on him. Kept him from having the first half that he maybe wanted to have, but even then, Josh Nickelberry, that's not even at full tilt, is going to be a productive player for you as he's been able to get to the free throw line. Kept them to within 4. Now he has it, and that is going to do it for the first half. We'll be back with more FBI Classic. Welcome back to the 2017 Farm Bureau Insurance Classic. Peachtree Ridge versus Northwood Temple. Peachtree Ridge with a 4-point advantage as we get the second half started. Ian Steer had a little bit of foul trouble there in the second quarter. Had to sit for the majority of it. Just short on his first shot attempt here of the second half. Rivers trying to show the range. He had one 3-pointer in the first half, misses that one. Kicks it to Vassell. Wide open on that one, off to the right, but Rivers finishes what he started with that initial pass. Makes it 27-33. So a 6-point game. Nickelberry, talented guard for Northwood Temple, held to 6 points there in the first half. Mentioned that a lot of that you got to give Peachtree Ridge credit for the job they did defensively. Some of it had a lot of shots that just rattled in and out. Nickelberry was 1 for 6, 0 for 4 from 3-point land there in the first half. Eight-point lead now for Peachtree Ridge. Michael Wright stuffed on the inside, but he's fouled on the play, so he'll head to the line to shoot 2.
That's on number 25, Richard Rivers, his second. First team foul.
Foul going to go against Rivers. You'll get the tail of the tape there in the first half. Some of the things that stick out to you, Peachtree Ridge, while not shooting a scorching percentage, considerably better than Northwood Temple. Peachtree Ridge 11 for 28 from the field there in the first half, while Northwood Temple was 6 for 20. Free throw wise, Northwood Temple did a better job of getting to the free throw line. I think that's part of why they're still in this game. Not that it would be a blowout if they hadn't gotten to the free throw line, but it would certainly be a double-digit deficit at least, as they're down by 6. But they were able to shoot 18 free throws as opposed to just 6 free throw attempts for Peachtree Ridge in the first half, as Devin Vassell shows you that last air ball was certainly an anomaly. As he knocks down the triple, looks more like himself from a shooting standpoint. Makes it 29-38. Largest lead for either squad. Peachtree Ridge can take a double-digit advantage. Ian Steer knocks that one out of bounds. Vassell to throw it in. Stolen by John Michael Wright. Layup drill on the other end. Pulls Northwood Temple to within 7. Vassell able to protect that one as he was curling around. Defense knocked at it, but he had already protected. He had protected himself from being vulnerable to a back tap there. So it was nothing more than an easy inside the elbow jumper once he prevented the steal. 31-40, Nickelberry gets to the free throw line. I think that's going to be something that he'll have to do here in the second half if Northwood Temple is going to be able to close this deficit, just with the way Peachtree Ridge has defended. When guys have been stuck on him in terms of guarding him one-on-one, they've done a good job of making sure things aren't too easy. But then also the double has come appropriately as well. So I think he's going to have to manufacture some points at the line in order to be able to pull this one off. He's perfect from the line today, knocking down his 5th and 6th free throws. So we approach the 5-minute mark here in the third quarter. It's a 7-point game. One thing Northwood Temple is doing, obviously they're not trying to get beat but they have to be a little bit more adamant about moving their feet on defense over the past couple possessions. I think they've been a little bit too quick to go to the back tap versus moving their feet and staying in front of the in front of the ball handlers there for Peachtree Ridge. Obviously easier said than done. You never want to come off as that person that's saying do this, do that, stay in front of them, you know, from the stands or from your armchair position. But over the past couple possessions, it hasn't been like it's been, great moves or a quick first step by Peachtree Ridge that's gotten them in the paint. It's really just been a player going for the back tap tactic. So Peachtree Ridge takes advantage of that trip to the line. Devin Vassell gets another board. Shot no good the other way. Moss, Higgs attacking the offensive glass. Another look at three, and this one's cashed in by number 21, Hiram Maxey. Had 2 3-pointers in the first half, gets his first here in the third quarter. Pass inside, that one blocked, but Vassell got a little bit of the hand as well. We'll have a trip to coming to the free throw line here for Northwood Temple's Trayvon Jackson.
Fouls on number 24, Devin Vassell, his second. 13 foul. On the line for Northwood Temple, number 32, Trayvon Jackson. We give Peachtree Ridge number 12, Andy Bates. Number 20, Josh Nickelman.
Couple substitutions in for Peachtree Ridge, one of them being number 12. Harrison Chester. Tamir Harrison Chester checking back in for action. Back in for Northwood Temple will be number 50, Akot Aguirre. Just under the 4-minute mark here in the third quarter. Skip pass, stolen by Steer. Nickelberry back to Steer for the boom. Ian Steer. 36-45. Nobody boxed out Devin Vassell, and that's what happens when you don't. Averages 25 points per game and also right around 7 rebounds a game as well. Steer, kick out to Michael Wright. Michael Wright can't get the triple to go. Ball tipped around, right place, right time. Akot with the layup. Northwood Temple. Your Northwood Temple, obviously, in an ideal world, you close this gap going into the fourth quarter, but I think you at least just want to keep it at 6 to 8 points. As Darius Moss gets the mid-range jumper. But you want to make sure this thing isn't double digits, even if it's 11 to 12 points, which isn't an overwhelming deficit. It's still more than you want to give Peachtree Ridge going into the fourth quarter because it's just that easy to get to the mid-teens. Forcing a tougher catch-up scenario for Northwood Temple. Nickelberry face up and nail the triple. Makes it 41-49, does Nickelberry. We talked about it in the first half. Peachtree Ridge played good defense. Even that last play, that was good defense. That was a 3-nail with a hand and face. Nickelberry's certainly one of those players to where you can play good defense and he'll just give you better offense. We'll see how many of those plays he has up his sleeve here in the second half. Devin Vassell, valuable element of his game. You'll have instances to where a play might be drawn for him on the Peachtree Ridge side of things, or where he'll take it and go, but a lot of his points just come within the flow of the game and just being able to use his motor and consistency to get you points on the offensive glass. He's gotten 6 points off of offensive rebounds minimum offensive rebounds and layups minimum here in the third quarter. She mentioned the goal of Peachtree Ridge being able to keep things, or Northwood Temple being able to keep the deficit to single digits going into the fourth quarter, but those two free throws by Bass will make it a 12-point advantage. He'll have a seat. And more than likely, rest for the remainder of the third quarter. Tough shot there by Michael Wright, can't get it to go. Maxey, cross-court pass. Harrison Chester driving baseline, kicks it to the corner. Good ball movement from Peachtree Ridge. Maxey cannot get the triple to go. There's Nickelberry. Hit a tough three a couple possessions ago. Nothing but blue jerseys on the inside there as they try to attack. Trying to save it is Acott. Now he'll go baseline. Uses that size to get right on top of the rim, but off the mark there on the layup attempt. So a 12-point game. This Peachtree Ridge defense deserves a ton of credit. You look at how they've been able to make sure that they pay enough attention to Nickelberry without totally letting guys like Ian Steer and some of the other players for Northwood Temple take advantage of all of that attention, being devoted to Nickelberry. You just see a lot of communication, movement, and just consistency on defense from Peachtree Ridge. And that's the reason why you've seen Nickelberry, when he has scored, it's been tough shots. And they've minimized what the others around him have been able to do. Sans a breakaway dunk a few minutes ago. They've kept Ian Steer relatively modest here so far in the contest. Three from the corner. There goes that kid again. Number 3, Jay Hickman. Had a nice sequence of positive plays there in the first half. Here, in a spot where they definitely needed a bucket, gets them a triple to make it a 9-point game. They might go into the fourth quarter with a single-digit deficit after all. If Hickman has anything to say about it. Could potentially have a hole for the last shot scenario here as we approach the end of the third. The game of back and forth continues. Try to float it up to Rivers. 4 seconds still remaining on the clock. Foul going to go against number 50, Acott. Catch and shoot, Vassell short, and that is going to do it for the third quarter. Thanks for joining us here on SUV TV for the FBI Classic. Peachtree Ridge currently up 9, but Ian Steer and Northwood Temple trying to change that. Take a look at that dime from Nickelberry and the flush by the big fella Ian Steer.
Introducing Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Sports Motion Analysis, powered by Dartfish, giving parents and young athletes frame-by-frame feedback on how to minimize injury and maximize performance. Upload your videos, visit our clinic, or let our specialists come to you. No matter the sport you play, Children's helps young athletes take their game to the next level.
Fourth quarter action underway. Game 1 of day 1 here at the 2017 FBI Classic. Peachtree Ridge will open the fourth quarter up with the possession. That skip pass too risky, as Brandon B. Franklin Steals that one. They must have looked at Brandon B. Franklin's listing in the roster book when they made that pass, because he's only listed as 6'3", but on the court looks at least 6'5". Uses that wingspan to steal that pass, feeds it inside to Steer, and Steer will take a trip to the free throw line. I think of your Peachtree Ridge or of your Northwood Temple, it's all about getting some free throw opportunities to start this fourth quarter. I mean, obviously you'll take buckets if they're going to be open, but with the way Peachtree Ridge has played defense, that's not going to be likely. So how do you get Steer more involved and force Rivers to either defend him one-on-one or try to draw fouls on the guards that are coming to double, or at least be able to create more opportunities for your Hickmans, your Nickelberries to be able to knock shots down. But with Josh Nickelberry getting a breather here to start the fourth, expect to see a heavy dosage of Ian Steer to not only offset Nickelberry being on the bench, but also I think just to kind of work it inside out. With Steer, there's a very high probability you either get a bucket or some free throw opportunities. But now Steer has checked out. So it'll be interesting to see the usual suspects here with both Steer and Nickelberry out. I think Hickman has already shown he's capable of knocking down shots. John Michael Wright will also have to step up as he takes a triple. Can't get it to go, but Acott with the offensive rebound. Just a 7-point game. Coach Baker showing a lot of faith in this unit. They have a chance to pull it to within 5 points. Nickelberry and Steer both on the bench. Nickelberry is at the scorer's table. Set to check in during the next dead ball. So he'll be checking in momentarily. Foul going to go against Harrison Chester. That'll be his third foul. As you can see, John Michael Wright being aggressive on the catch, getting the step on the defender. But that one called on the floor. A little bit of extra continuation needed for that one to be an and one. So I think he got one more dribble in just after the contact. So it's not like he picked it up, gathered, and didn't put it back down. So looked like the correct call there, ruling it on the floor, but as a result of the 1-and-1 scenario, Northwood Temple gets the first one, pulled to within 6. So getting to the free throw line was going to be part of their roadmap in terms of completing this comeback here in the fourth quarter. And they've been able to do that. It was Steer a couple possessions ago. There you see Michael Wright getting to the free throw line and pulling them to within 5. Gets his hands on that pass, knocks it out of bounds. They now as good of a time to strike as any for Peachtree Ridge. Making sure that you keep Northwood at bay. For Northwood in a position to pull to within 1 possession if they can get a stop here. Vassell with it up top. Hangs, can't get the shot to go, but nobody boxes out. And if you're Northwood Temple, you cannot afford to have that right there, although that's a relatively big body inside. With Peachtree Ridge's number 20, Amari Davis. Davis listed as 6'7". So a treat here at the high school game, they try to keep off the glass, but with as hard as Northwood is working to stay in this game and close this gap, you hate to see that many offensive rebound opportunities. You finally force Devin Vassell to miss a shot, and you give up an offensive board. But so far, no harm done. Although the pair of free throws split there by Davis. So a 6-point game. Nowhere to go, Michael Wright. So he kicks it to Hickman. Hickman has been money here so far in this game. That one is off the mark. Steer staying back. One man to beat, and he does. Ian Steer, just the size and to be able to move how he moves for his size. Wasn't going to be a scenario where as that guard, you could just give that ball up. Steer got a piece of it, but able to pick up the pieces. There was Davis. I've been impressed with the sportsmanship of both teams. throughout this game as well. Just little things, just small things in between plays. Guys playing hard, but just things that you pick up on in terms of how both of these teams are coached, how the intensity is there, but also the sportsmanship there as well. But back to Steer, I mean, you just look at some of the plays he makes. Was able to steal that ball right there just shy of the half-court line. And a lot of times you'll see a guard able to, just pick a spot and set up for that charge when you see a post player running with a full head of steam like that. But Steer, very nimble and agile for his size. Able to use his two steps creatively and lay that one in. So 50-56 is your score in favor of Peachtree Ridge. They have led for the overwhelming majority of this contest. And a very crucial couple minutes coming up for Northwood Temple, as they are within 6 and can possibly pull closer here. On Michael Wright, over to Nickelberry. Nickelberry had that one hit off of his leg. Looked like he might have been talking to his bench or his coach momentarily. All it took was a second to kind of lose that ball off of his hands. So now Peachtree Ridge, I'm sure, going to be a little bit more deliberate in terms of taking their time during every possession. Not necessarily stall ball, but just running a little clock wisely. That one kicks off the foot of Vassell. Steer tried to grab it for Northwood Temple. Was unable to do so, but it goes out of bounds. It was last touched by Peachtree Ridge. So still a 6-point game. Nickelberry wheeling, dealing, defended nicely by Higgs. Great defense by Higgs. Vassell off the Iverson cut. I'm sorry, Higgs off the Iverson cut. Get he and Vassell mixed up, although I'm familiar with both players. Know the numbers of both players, but somehow still there on the mix-up. So my apologies there. The player shaking off the early cobwebs. Shake mine off here on day 1 of game 1. Stolen away. Higgs coming the other way, has Vassell to his right, but he is fouled, and we'll head to the free throw line. So Higgs at the line. So Higgs misses the first free throw. If you're Peachtree Ridge, you still have to finish the mission. Nail your free throws. You don't want to give this Northwood Temple team any additional signs of life. He played great defense on Nickelberry up to this point, but he is capable. He's a tough shot maker. So you want to take advantage of those freebies at the line. They can all add up. It's a 9-point game. After that split pair of free throws, splitting the defense is Hickman over to Nickelberry. A better look at three than he's gotten for most of the day, and he knocks it down. So the talented sophomore Josh Hickman again on the contributing end of another positive play for Northwood Temple. They pull it to within 6. It's Hickman that draws in the defense, kicks it out to Nickelberry, who rattles in the triple. So 3 minutes and 43 seconds remaining here in the contest. Peachtree Ridge looking to move on to 11-1, while Northwood Temple trying to get to the 6-10 mark as far as where they're at now. 5-10 coming into the contest per Max Preps. And again, for those that don't know their schedule, played the likes of Oak Hill, Huntington Prep, Providence Day, Word of God as well. So it's not a schedule with that many losses against basic middle of the road competition. While 5-10 is 5-10, it's got to be able to factor in strength of schedule as well in order to really get a proper assessment of that team. Vassal will inbound. Now here's Higgs. That ball was tipped initially, made it in the hands of Maxey. Quick hands by Higgs as he pokes it away from Nickelberry. Now to Vassal. Vassal goes in strong and is fouled on the play. He'll head to the free throw line. Devin Higgs, great quick hands to poke that one away from Nickelberry.
16 foul. On the line for Peachtree Ridge, number 24, Devin Vassal.
Vassal short on the free throw.
In the game for Northwood Temple, number 21.
Coach Arrington gives Vassal a come on, Dev, as far as knocking that free throw now, just to let him know, just enough sentiment to let him know he needs those freebies, but also enough to also let him know he's got full confidence in him. Because Vassal, one of those players, he's going to get on himself for something even before his coach can. But he misses both free throws, a rare empty trip to the free throw line for Vassal. It's a 6-point game. If you're Northwood Temple, obviously we can see it a little bit more since we're spectating and commentating on the game, but despite how they've played, or as well as Peachtree Ridge has done defensively, they're just down 6 points. Offensive foul going to go against Ian Steer. And a tough play there for Steer, but anytime you get to an instance to where you look at the credibility that Peachtree Ridge has defensively with the way they move their feet and defend it, but then when you get caught with that arm extending, you can see the shoulder lowered there. That left arm kind of extends a little bit, not to mention he was sort of beat to the spot. There by Vassal, you can see a couple different factors that led to that being an offensive foul call. They got it right. And Peachtree Ridge has gotten it right defensively for the majority of this game. So we got a short break in the action. We'll take one with them. It's a 6-point game. Northwood Temple is trying to close the gap. You see that Nickelberry 3 moments ago. Inbounding the ball there is Peachtree Ridge. It'll be brought across by Hiram Maxey. Maxey with it up top. He's done a good job with timely three-point shooting. In addition to setting plays up for others here to start this one. Doubled in the corner. That one's going to be ripped away. The sophomore Hickman comes up with another one trying to maintain possession. And we're going to have a jump ball. Possession arrow looks like it's going to send it to Northwood as Hickman a little shaken up on the play. Nothing to be shaken up about as far as his play. He's going to step out for a second, but like the composure for Hickman here in this scenario throughout this game. Won't have an eye-popping stat line at the end of it, but he's just made some good plays. Here's Nickelberry hanging and getting that one to drop with the left. So it's a 4-point game as we approach the 2-minute mark. I've watched it in its entirety. I've made notes of a few things throughout, but I'm just still surprised that it's just a 4-point game as well as Peachtree Ridge has played defensively. So I guess you got to give Northwood Temple defensive credit for not letting them really pull away even when their offense was in the doldrums. But right on demand, Devin Vassell provides a much-needed bucket, makes it 55-61. 6-point game. Steer at the top of the key. Gets it to Michael Wright. Back to Steer. Tough shot right there as that one is short for Kobe Fisher. Again, it's always easy to second-guess things when you're not out there on the floor, but when you look at Nickelberry's ability to hit tough shots, Ian Steer, I feel like you can get a better shot there if you're Northwood. Even some pick-and-roll action with Steer and Nickelberry. They're going to call an offensive interference. Looked like that ball had come out of the cylinder, but they're going to call it either way, so it will head back the other way for Northwood Temple. Three-pointer. Nickelberry knocks it down. A big triple there for Nickelberry, and that just sort of underscores my point from the last possession. I got a guy that can hit shots like that. I have to at least get him a touch, or at least see what I can do to have him draw the defense in. Even if he doesn't get the shot, I got to give him a shot to make the play for others. As Hiram Maxey could have been a potential and one, but we won't waste time on woulda, coulda, shouldas. He gets the 2 points that he came for, and it's a 5-point game. Ball's loose. It was a 50-50 ball, but that changed very quickly as Amir Davis hit the ground and shows that that ball was his. Amari Davis gets to keep possession there for Peachtree Ridge. It's 58-63. Here as we are under 40 seconds left to play in this one. Appreciate you joining us here for day one of the 2017 Farm Bureau Insurance Classic. As far as how today's lineup will go, at 11:30 a.m., it'll be Nation Ford Hoops taking on Gaston Day. At 1 p.m., Newton, another team out of the Peach State, will take on Spartanburg High School. At 2:30 p.m., Burns, the Rebels, just up the road here in South Carolina. They'll take on Georgetown Prep out of Maryland. At 4 p.m., Madison Memorial out of Wisconsin will take on Norcross, Georgia. It's cold outside, but I'm sure the Madison Memorial faithful would laugh at us if we complain about this winter, given what they face up there in Wisconsin. At 5:30 p.m., Wilson, South Carolina will take on Trinity out of Kentucky. 7 p.m., Dorman, the host school, takes on Providence. And at 8:30, the nightcap will be Southside versus Gaffney in a battle of two South Carolina high schools. So we are out of the timeout, and we got a quick foul as Northwood Temple looking to extend the game. Devin Higgs will head to the free throw line.
Foul on number 3, Jay Hickman, his second. 18th foul on the line, number 3, violates Peachtree Ridge.
So Higgs at the free throw line. John Michael Wright checks in for Northwood Temple, along with number 23 in Brandon B. Franklin. Free throws missed, so a 5-point game. Can Northwood Temple score quickly? Michael Wright goes in. Looked like that shot was partially deflected. Peachtree Ridge gets another stop, and now they'll get more free throw practice. Foul going to go against Hickman. The sophomore to keep an eye on for Northwood Temple. And to the free throw line, we have a trip for Peachtree Ridge's B.J. Knight. (58-65). The Lions take care of business at the line. Northwood will need to get a shot up quick. No, they're looking to get a good one, but time is not on their side. Nickelberry elevates, can't get it to go. Hiram Maxey with the rebound. And it'll be a jump ball, so able to tie it up there was Northwood, but unfortunately for them, Peachtree Ridge had the possession arrow on their side. So it looks like Coach Corey Baker has called for a no foul for Northwood Temple, and that is going to do it for the first game here at this year's Farm Bureau Insurance Classic. Peachtree Ridge moves on to 11-1 after defeating Northwood Temple here in this opener for this year's FBI Classic. Appreciate you joining us here on SUV TV. Stay tuned. We'll have Nation Ford taking on Gaston Day. We'll be back with more FBI Classic.